It's us again, and we're ready to
Surprise.
do some math. We are so excited because this is like where we start to get into the nitty-gritty of math.
Like
This
good
is what,
stuff.
yes, this is what you need to move forward in your math classes, and it's also what you need to do all of those social media math games that they have. So we're going to talk about order of operations. So when you see a problem, which we'll get to, you have to know what order to solve things. When you were younger, you probably had PEMDAS. But as you get older and the math becomes more complicated, we have had to move to GEMDAS. G stands for grouping symbols. And Miss Benson is going to write out what grouping symbols we have to search out and then complete first before going to any other part of the problem. Miss Benson, what are all those grouping symbols?
So regular old parentheses that you've seen before, and then we have a bracket and a curly bracket and a square root sign. And then fraction bars can also count as grouping symbols, but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Right. The next thing you're going to look at is exponents. Again, Miss Benson is going to go ahead and write a few examples up. The great thing about 8th grade is that you're allowed to use Desmos, and we encourage you to use Desmos to calculate all of these exponents.
Because they can be positive, negative, have parentheses. They can look all different kinds of ways. And if you're not using the calculator, it can get tricky.
Absolutely. The next step is multiplication and division. We're always going to do that left to right. So you read a book left to right, you write a letter left to right, you type on your computer left to right. So as you're going through a problem, you will complete any multiplication and division that you see going left to right. Miss Benson, what are those symbols? What do they look like?
So these are just all the different ways to write multiplication. You can use the old school X, like from elementary school. We won't really use that anymore after today unless we're talking about scientific notation, but it still means multiply. This little dot means multiply. If you have two things smushed together with parentheses, multiply. Or if you just have two things smushed together, that means multiply. We have old school division symbols. Fraction bars can also mean division, and we'll talk about how these are different later. And then you can even use this forward slash here to show one thing is being divided by another.
Okay. The last thing that you have to look for is addition and subtraction. Again, you're going left to right as you find those things. They'll be the last things you do. And Miss Benson, tell us about these symbols.
That's it. We don't make up new symbols for adding and subtracting in 8th grade.
So thank goodness. That's a good thing, I think. So, alrighty then. We're going to show you how we have chosen with our classes to remember this order of operations. Goats eat many delicious apple slices. Even the goat says, I sure wish these apples were in slices. This is how we remember things. And right up here, we've got grouping, exponents, multiplication and division left to right, addition and subtraction left to right. Okay, so let's go.
All right, so we've got this many-step problem over here.
Yes.
And we're going to follow GEMDAS to make sure we do it in the right order. So the first thing that we're looking for is grouping symbols. And we have grouping symbols.
I see them.
Absolute value bars are grouping symbols. But inside that grouping symbol, we have to decide which operation we're going to do first.
Right.
So should we do subtraction first or multiplication first?
Well, I think multiplication comes first because it comes before addition and subtraction.
Exactly. So we're going to do 2 times 3. And you probably already know what 2 times 3 is, but we're going to put it in the calculator because we don't want to make mistakes.
That gave us 6. So what Miss Benson's doing is she's rewriting on the next line everything that we haven't done yet. When you do that, it makes things work so much better. So that 2 times 3 is 6. So we're going to go to the next line on the calculator and we're going to make our next decision.
I'm still not done with my grouping symbols. My absolute value bars are still there. So we're going to do 60 minus 6 next.
So I'm going to put 60 minus 6 in the calculator, and that gives us 54. So that's what we will put inside of those bars that I can't remember their name right now. Absolute values, that's what it is. All right, what's coming next?
All
We've
right.
done grouping.
Well, we still have the absolute value bars there,
She's
even though
right.
there's only one number inside. But we got to get rid of those bars before we can move on to anything else. So to finish off our grouping, we're going to do the absolute value of 54.
And just to show you that it can be done in Desmos, I'm going to click on absolute value, put in 54, hit enter, and the absolute value of positive 54 is also 54. Because remember, an absolute value is the distance from 0, and a distance is always positive.
So now we're done with grouping symbols. We have nothing grouping down here. We're going to go on to the E, which stands for exponents. And I have an exponent right there.
I see it.
So let's put 4 to the 3rd power in the calculator and see what we get.
So I'm going to hit 4a raised to b, and I'm going to make that a 3rd power, and that gives me 64. And then
Perfect.
she's going to keep writing out the problem, because math is a lot about organization. If you're organized, you're going to get right answers.
Okay, now let's go back to our list. I have no more exponents, so I can get rid of that. Then I'm going to look for multiplication or division, and I have division right here.
And she looked left to right. So we're going to do 54 divided by 5, which gives us 10.8. So she's writing 64 minus 10.8.
Okay, almost done. I have no more multiplication or division. All that's left is to look for addition or subtraction, and this is subtraction.
So we're going to jump over here to the calculator, put in 64 minus 10.8, and ta-da! The answer is 53.2. That's how you use order of operations. It's really very simple. Take your time, write out every step, and stay organized, and you're going to get these right every time, we promise.
So before we do our next example, we want y'all to try one. So go over and try this problem, working it out step by step. Use your calculator to help you, and then we'll be back with the work and the answer. All right, I hope you guys tried this problem. You should have gotten 2 as your final answer. Here's all of the work if you want to check your steps. If you got 2, you are probably good to go. We're going to do one more example with you, and then y'all are going to do one more. All right, so I'm going to begin by looking for grouping symbols. And in this problem, we actually have probably the weirdest grouping symbol. Okay, so the grouping symbol that we have here is we have a fraction bar. All right, and when we see a fraction bar and we count it as grouping, that means you have to do everything in the numerator and then everything in the denominator until it is basically just a regular fraction.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to look in the numerator and see if there's anything to do. And there is. There's a 14 times 3, because remember, those parentheses mean I'm multiplying. So I'm going to do those first.
And they give you 42.
Oh, no. There we go. And then we can check the denominator of the fraction to see if there's anything to do. But it's just a regular number 7. So once we've done all the top and all the bottom, that doesn't really count as a grouping anymore. We did the grouping part of it.
Okay.
Some people are going to think that these parentheses are grouping, but there's nothing to do inside of those parentheses. And this is the only time it really gets a little bit tricky.
Right.
All that's in there is a -5. So there's nothing to do there. It's just a -5. So we're actually done with our grouping symbols.
Right. What's next?
Next is exponents, and we definitely have one of those. I see it right here.
All right. So what I'm going to do, since they have it in parentheses, I'm going to go ahead and just put that in my calculator. Okay, so I'm going to have a parentheses. I'm going to put in -5, and then I'm going to raise it to the 2nd power. And I end up with 25.
And it's really important that you do that. If it's in parentheses in the problem, you need to put it in your calculator in parentheses.
Okay.
All right, done with exponents. Next, I'm looking for multiplication and division. I don't see any multiplication, but this is a division problem.
Absolutely. So we're going to do 42 divided by 7, which gives us 6. And then we're going to have that plus 25 there.
So done with this, on to addition and subtraction, which we've got right there.
6 plus 25 is 31.
And we're done with this problem.
And now what we want you to do is to go ahead, try this one on your own, okay? Come back, look at the work that we've done and the answer we've gotten, but try it first. It's really important that you try this, okay? The best way to learn math is to actually do it. It's kind of like driving. If you watch your mom drive from the time you're a baby until you're, say, 12, 13, 14 years old, the first time you get in a car, you're not an expert. You've got to learn by doing it, even though you've watched for all those years. So it's super important when you're doing math to do it, because just watching us do it isn't going to help you learn without you doing it yourself. Okay? So do that for us, and we'd be real excited. See you later.
Alrighty, so let's check your answer. You should have gotten negative 58. If you made a mistake somewhere along the way, it's totally fine. It happens to the best of us.
Absolutely.
You can check through these steps and maybe catch where you went astray.
And if you don't find your mistake and you're still confused, please reach out to your teacher, okay? And let them help you with this. Just ask for help. We are here for you. Okay?
Bye.